Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. We have on tap for you today football, basketball, recruiting. We got 8 of us here to discuss all that. No open dates on the Sports Source. Let's get right into it. It's jam-packed. Let's start off. First segment of our show brought to you by Phoenix Conversions. They have every accessory you could ever need for your truck, van, or SUV. They can convert any vehicle to make it better for work or make it handicap accessible. So many people need that. If you want vehicle upgrades, folks, the first people to call, Phoenix Conversions. You could also check out their website. You see it right there on your screen. PhoenixConversions.com. Since 1987, they have been the leader in vehicle conversions here in East Tennessee. Phoenix Conversions. All right, let's welcome in round one of our panel group today. We have right here former Vol coach and also a former Division I basketball player, Mark Pancratz. Back with us, Hall of Fame sports writer Mike Strange. Good to have you.
Good to be back.
David Ubben from The Athletic. And our own Sports Source Hall of Famer down there with his cowboy hat on the desk for some reason. I guess he saw Garth last night. Chuck Cavaleris, thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Let's take a look at Tennessee's basketball last week. We'll leave the stats up there for you. Big win yesterday. They beat Murray State earlier this week, fell behind early, and then had an unbelievable second-half romp where apparently Rick Barnes went in and burned the paint off the walls at halftime. Had a great second-half run to put Murray State down by 20. Then you come back yesterday in Toronto against a 20th-ranked Washington team, a great test. It was Washington's height. I mean, you're worried about Tennessee's disadvantage in terms of size. Washington has size. Tennessee had the experience. Mark Pancratz, Tennessee's experience won out. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, and Tennessee had Rick Barnes. I mean, the way that you watch that basketball team, they're so well coached. Hopkins, their zone that Syracuse had played, and obviously now is at Washington. Completely different roster, completely different way of their attacking the zone, and we handled it. We took care of the basketball, knocked down 15 shots on 15 assists in the first half. We are just a well-coached team, and now led by 2 guards, Lamonte Turner and Bowden set the tone and gave those other guys that, yes, they've got experience, but not as much where they're the priority of the offense, gave them confidence, and they both started the game out well and was able to pull off a really good win.
Impressive early season win, important win.
And mentioning Lamonte and Bowden, I thought they were such great leaders in that Murray State game in the second half. Just showed a lot of poise and brought that to, down 9 at halftime, something like that. Just both of those guys really came up big as leaders against Murray State.
It's early, but, I had question marks going into the season. Oh, okay, how well is Turner going to run this thing? He's done pretty well. Now, again, it's early, but he's done better than I expected at this stage of the season.
Yeah, he didn't have Bone to help him out, and he's handling that. But I think, you mentioned it before the show, but I think Yves Pons it has been the story of the season so far. I mean, 28% from 3 last year, 62% through a couple games this year. That's probably not a sustainable number, but he looks like a completely different person. There were so many questions coming in to this season. Where can Bowden and Turner step up and be the guys? And where what does Jalen Johnson do? What does Fulkerson do? The Plavsic situation. Nobody was really talking about Yves Pons, really. That wasn't a conversation. He looked like an athlete. Now he looks like a basketball player. And you saw it yesterday in that zone. When he gets the ball in the high post, they can't sag off of him. Last year, a lot of teams probably could have. You can't now. They got to come up, and if they don't, he's going to knock down that shot. I mean, he's been a huge weapon for them, and a guy that, when Turner or Bowden don't have it, it's not up to the other guy. They got a lot of guys on the team that can score, and Pons is providing that.
His plus-minus numbers got so out of whack toward the end of last season, they benched him. He disappeared from the lineup there.
Yeah, he also had a crushed skull or something where he got the elbow.
Yeah, with the mask. But he's 21 of 31 from the floor. He's 67%. 15 points, 19 points, 15 points. He had 4 blocks against Murray State. When he got here, we looked at him and said, boy, he looks the part. Didn't play it. Looked like he was still raw. Sophomore, you didn't see a big jump. But I'll say this. he's got that Barnes bump now for his junior year.
Yeah.
I told you guys this beforehand. I don't know if I can remember a Tennessee coach. Football, it's tough because you're talking about 85 guys, so let's just keep it to basketball. Don't remember a Tennessee basketball coach, and this is no knock on previous coaches, but this guy produces more upgrade in his players. You see more development with this bunch than any coach I can see in the past at Tennessee. I mean, year after year, you see guys get better. Pons is a great example from where he was to where he is now. And go back, Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield. Barnes and his staff, boy, they improve you.
Well, and it's hard work. I mean, it doesn't just happen by accident. You hear about the requirements and what they have to do, and I think that's why some guys transfer from the program. They're not willing to make that investment. And you talk about Pons, I believe in his first 2 seasons, he only had 1 double-double. 3 games this year, all 3 of them. I mean, he scored in double figures. So another thing I noticed too, boy, you had a short bench against Washington, didn't you? You only played 2 reserves, only 2 guys got in. Bench scored 3 points. So you showing that you've got a lot of faith in the guys, that can travel too, how they play.
Well, we'll talk about that a little later in the show, the minutes, because that was an issue last season, I think.
I think
you were going to say about improvement, coaching.
Yeah, from the improvement standpoint, where I think coaches get it wrong is there's a lot of guys out there that can coach skill, but what Barnes has done is they've created a culture that the players have the expectations of. Everybody's getting in the gym, everybody's getting better, not just the culture, or not just the guys that are getting better at shooting the basketball or ball handling. It's the culture that is now why you see it year in and year out with these guys continue to get better, and that's what Barnes has done.
Fulkerson is another guy who's
Exactly.
improved. I mean, 14 yesterday against Washington, rebounding. I think he's getting 8 a game right now. That's a guy that's improved as well. You mentioned it earlier, and here's something that we looked at last season as you lose 4 really good keys, just building blocks to your program are gone. We asked, all right, you're bringing in a 5-star now. You're mixing in different chemistry. Is this team going to be as unselfish as we saw last year? Early results? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, that goes to Barnes and the style of program he runs. But you said it, Mark. 15 shots in the first half, 15 buckets you hit, all 15 get assists. Hard to be better than that. Well, that's impressive.
And one thing to be said, though, when you lose 4 NBA guys, stats are automatically going to look better, right? Because now all of a sudden there's a lot more shots, there's more rebounds.
Yeah, I'm not worried about stats. I'm talking about the unselfish play.
Correct, but I'm saying, yes, Fulkerson's going to score more points. Pons is going to score more points. All these guys are going to score more points because there's more points out there. The thing about it, to what you mentioned, they're passing the ball. Defense is still the foundation. They're still playing together. That's what's different. Sometimes we get caught up in just saying a guy's improved because his stats are better. Well, there's a lot more shots. Yeah. I'm not saying you are. What I'm saying is that the culture is there, and that's why they're able to still win these basketball games.
Right, and I agree with that. The point when you look at guys like Pons and Fulkerson, to me, is they look like better basketball players all the way around.
Then Fulkerson doesn't even look like the same person to me. I mean, it's like he's, looks totally different. Just don't get hurt. Don't get hurt.
Well, when you're only playing 7, you better not get
and
hurt.
diving around and all that other stuff.
I think it's really helpful. We barely even mentioned Josiah Jordan-James, a 5-star coming in here. It's really helpful that they're not putting a lot on him because they've got a lot of fun. He can sort of feel it out, and we'll see. I think he's going to have probably some transcendent games this year. I think the Ben Simmons comparisons are fair, but he can do kind of whatever he needs to do. It's not like he's carrying a whole lot right now.
And that's a good segue with what he was saying about being unselfish. You bring in this 5-star guy, and he's pass first. He's all about that. He is, he's not like I'm going to go get my points and go on to the NBA.
Exactly. And I think that speaks to, I think that goes back to Barnes and the culture he's created over there.
Yeah.
So, okay, very good. When we come back, we're going to turn our focus to football. We got a lot more basketball to come. We got football to come up next. Jeremy Pruitt, what were his worst coaching moves this year? What have been his best coaching moves this year? 5-5, 10 games in. We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source.